Okay. You pretty sure?
Yeah. Just like you say, there's no Wi-Fi in here.
You recorded, Gordon? Yeah.
So would that be something for the town trust or the town council to follow the fact that there's no Wi-Fi here? We've got to double bit right.
Yeah. Right, okay, we're going to make a start. So, welcome everybody to the Middleton Norton Town Council meeting, the full Town Council meeting, Monday the 11th of May 2026. We're going to start with the first item, which is the election of Mayor Chair of the Council. Just want to say thank you everybody for your support and for I've enjoyed the last year going around seeing everything that's been going on and chairing meetings and talking to you all about these items. So, does anybody want to propose somebody for Chair Mayor?
Seems that you've done such an admirable job and represented the Town Council extremely professionally, I would like to propose Councillor Clark be Mayor again next year, please.
Thank you very much, Councillor Scott. Thank you for seconding that. Okay, I accept the nomination.
I'd like to nominate myself.
Okay, go on.
I'm not sure if I'll get a second or not.
Well, actually, I was going to suggest Cheryl. I'm not prepared to accept a nomination. You're not ready to know. Okay. I worked in time, so I wouldn't be able to do it justice. Okay.
He's not in.
Ask them when I was tired. I didn't mean to be rude. No, it's okay. Thank you, though.
Do we have any seconds for Councillor Mackay?
I'll second Councillor Mackay.
It's good to have
good to have a competition.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you wait to Councillor?
Can we take those in order?
Yeah.
The first proposal, we vote on the first proposal.
Okay. I'm not going to wait for Tim then.
Well, I do
Would you
want to have a
If you're not on first, would you come in? Nearly full. Okay, so in order, first nomination is myself, Councillor Plant, as Mayor and Chair for the forthcoming year. All in favour? 1, 2, 4, 5, 6.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
7.
I'd say that was carried.
Okay, carried.
You need to ask all those in favour of Councillor Mackay.
Oh, yeah.
It could be a draw.
Register and vote.
Okay. All those in favour of Councillor Mackay? No, I'm not allowed to vote.
You are allowed to go.
Well, according to the card, I'm not allowed to vote.
He gets a casting vote.
You can't
I get
vote.
casting
vote.
I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon.
You can't, the mayor can't vote. You only have to cast a vote, not an original vote.
Okay, good. So, thank you very much, Council, for trusting me again to get even better at doing it this year.
Well, we're expecting great things. You've got 2 years under your belt.
Practice makes perfect.
You'll get it better. You'll do it right this time.
Is it 2 years?
Yes. Gosh, I know. So, item number 2 on the agenda is election of Vice Chair, Deputy Mayor. I'd like to propose Councillor Scott.
Yeah, I second that.
Councillor Watson, second. Is anybody? Councillor Mackay,
I'd like to nominate myself for deputy.
seconded for Councillor Mackay. Ah, good.
Well,
All right, Councillor Watson, second. Councillor Mackay. Any other nominations? No. So, in order, all those in favour of Councillor Scott?
can't vote.
Who can vote this time?
I haven't read any advice that the vice chair can vote.
7. So 7
It's in theory.
for 1, 2,
I'm abstaining.
7.
I'm abstaining.
Oh, she's
Seven.
abstaining. So she
6,
wants to
so that's
abstain.
6.
6. All those in
And all those in favour of Councillor Mackay? 1 for Councillor Mackay. So duly elected as vice and chair and deputy mayor, Councillor Scott Martin, to the role
Thank you very
the
much.
following year. Okay, on to item number 3, apologies for absence. To receive any apologies for absence? Yeah.
One's just coming through, hasn't it?
Yeah, Charlotte's just fingered.
Yeah.
Okay, ideally before the meeting. But, so item number 4, declarations of interest. Members declare an interest to include disposable peculiar interest in matter related to agenda items, according to the Council's Code of Conduct and considering private requests. Anybody wants to declare an interest in any of the matters coming up on the agenda? We've got a flow diagram here that's like prepared. Is there anything on it? No, it's not. Okay, on to item number 5, public session. No members of the public, so we'll move on to item number 6, confirmation of the minutes of the full council meeting. To approve and sign the correct record of the minutes of the full council meeting is 30th of March. That one.
Yeah, like both those.
Okay, we've got a second bit. Councillor Gregory seconded it. All in favour of accepting these minutes? So the record 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, so that's carried unanimously. Right, that. And then we've got the extraordinary full council meeting of the 20th of April. 2, 3 pages. Yes, this will do wards of the property assets management. Okay, proposing. Councillor Scott proposing.
Also.
Councillor Thornton second. All in favour of the minutes? And that's everybody.
I wasn't at the extraordinary.
No, I
Okay,
wasn't.
extraordinary. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All those against, all those abstaining. To abstain. To note the minutes of the following committee meetings: the staffing committee. That one. And then the Finance and Operations Committee. Have anything you want to say? Put your hand up if there's any comment you want to make in any minutes. Then the Planning Committee meeting held the 20th of April. And then the community events.
Were there any minutes for that, the community
Yeah,
events?
it's included in there.
Okay, thank you. No, I'm going to ask them later.
No, just make that move on to that bit there, recommendations, because that's a bit of a...
Yeah. So following the meetings, there was item number 8, consider the recommendations of the committees. So
Yeah, start there.
Yeah. So the first item is the approval of a change to staff contracted hours. So a confidential report released by the town clerk. It was resolved at the meeting to recommend to full council additional staff hours up to an average of 30 hours per month to carry out the locking and unlocking on a short-term basis be approved whilst other alternatives being explored.
Is that the same as the flexible working policy? loads of stuff over the book.
You won't have that many.
No, it's okay.
So this is just the approval, just to allow maintenance of the, the locking and blocking of the doors on a temporary basis until
Oh,
alternatives.
yes.
So that's that item. We're going to vote on this at the end. So if anybody's got any comments on that item?
Let's just deal with each one in turn. I propose that we resolve to accept that.
So I have got the report of that, but I remember it happening in this resolution. I remember that.
Yeah.
But
It's in the minutes that are in part of the agenda pack, so you should have the agenda pack there.
and then
Maybe
there's
I
a
didn't-
minute
maybe I didn't
with
print out all the minutes to go with it. Did I not?
I don't know. So anyway, so there should be a.
It's here, there's your stuff. Minutes there.
I saw the staffing minutes. I just didn't see this report, the approval of change of staff contracted hours. I haven't got that.
The Wednesday staffing committee, that you were in London, you still have all the paperwork sent to you.
And it would that report would have been written.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
It was in there.
It's
Okay.
summarised in the minutes, isn't it?
Okay.
Okay, so we've got a proposal to approve to change contract hours to allow the properties. And the other seconder, Councillor Gregory seconded. So all in favour of approving this staffing proposal? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Councillor Mackay? No. Councillor Taylor?
No.
No. 1, 2.
Well, I'm going to abstain.
7. So 7 in favour, all those against?
Yeah, I don't feel
Okay.
I have to vote against because I don't feel we've been given enough information, and also, I mean, it talks about while other alternatives are explored, but it hasn't gone into any detail what other alternatives exist and why they haven't been explored already. So I wish I could be more positive,
Okay.
but I don't feel as a council we're in a position to support it as it's presented.
Okay. Thank you.
It was discussed in a lot of detail at the staffing committee, but I appreciate that may not be reflected in the minutes.
Yeah. So against all the abstentions?
Which is like councillors were offered a copy of the confidential report that went to staffing committee. When the paperwork went out before council, all councillors were offered copies of the confidential reports in advance of this meeting, so they could be fully appraised.
Well, absolutely, but at the meeting we did discuss why we decided it should be a temporary solution rather than a permanent one, and what we felt we should be doing. So maybe that's not reflected.
It's just I don't know. I mean, a question would be: did the committee consider sort of staggered work patterns, for instance?
Yes, we did, because I suggested.
You're on that meeting, maybe.
You were on the meeting, dear. I was
I mean, we've just taken a vote
We've
to
taken a
approve a
vote.
recommendation, and now we're opening up debate. I don't think that there should be a debate on this. This is just, you know,
Yeah, we've got a lot of business to do.
we've got a lot of business to discuss. We either vote for it or we vote against it. I don't think we should then start trying to justify decisions and things like that. Not on this particular item. This isn't.
I think the feedback that's probably quite healthy from what we'll also sure follow up on is that sometimes when I have discussions around this, it's quite helpful to have a little bit of context of that conversation in the minutes. If that's appropriate for something else.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Councillor. Have we got, Jill, have you got the
I've
voting there?
got Joe proposed, Wendy second, 7 in favour, 1 against, 1 abstention.
Yeah, thank you. So the next item is the toil and annual leave. So again, a confidential report was presented by Councillor. It was resolved as staffing to recommend to full council approval of the policy for toil developed by the town clerk. So that's to be developed. Okay. Councillor
Propose that.
proposal, Councillor McCarthy proposing, seconded. Councillor Wells seconded. All in favour? That is everybody at this time. So finance and ops resolutions recommended to full council. So review of underspends and earmarked reserves. It was also recommended to town council following new allocations to EMR reserves as follows: allocation of £10,000 agreed in the 26-27 budget to a new EMR for play area equipment replacement, and an allocation of £49,000 to a new EMR for the retention fee that would now become due in 27-28, owing to further contractual delays in the town hall refurbishment project. So we were expecting to pay at the end of the last financial year, but because the town hall hasn't completed, now it's carried forward. So, Councillor Scott.
I just want to be clear. When we did all the budgeting and we had the town hall costs and everything else, okay, we were assuming that the project would end at the end of March. What we didn't do is make provision in the next year's budget. If you remember, the cost code that had town hall refurbishment expenditure was zero. So we actually didn't make provision in this year's budget for any expenditure. So when we went through a finance committee and reviewed where we are at the moment with town hall, with certain payments that are due, there is no delegated authority because there's been no budget line set to make payments to continue with the town hall project. So what we do need to do is we need to agree £10,000 in the budget. We need to add £10,000 to the budget for this expenditure to tide us over until we can bring this project to a conclusion in the next month. So, and then we need to allocate that into earmark reserves to make sure that it's reserved for that. So we are actually asking to approve a £10,000 expenditure as a new budget item.
Isn't that right next?
Yeah, but you can't allocate £10,000. Okay, I suppose you can. So, okay, so to go, we're just doing it the wrong way. But the other thing, of course, is because we didn't finish the town hall project at the end of March, the £49,000 that had been put into an earmark reserve to pay the retention, the first of the two retention fees that was due last financial year, didn't get paid, and therefore that's the reason why we're now going to pay a retention fee this year and next year, and that's where the recommendations from finance have been.
Councillor Kyle.
For clarity, has the cost of the town hall refurbishment increased at all, or is this just a case of allocating existing? Has it increased at all? Just when I hear extra money coming from reserves,
well,
has the cost of the town hall increased at all since the last council meeting?
Well, I think that's the next item. So
right.
This item, FO 762527, is just the £10,000 for the play equipment that was in the budget. We put into an EMR and £49,000 retention, just to put that in the EMR reserve. So,
sorry,
yeah,
I misled you. It's for the playground equipment,
yeah,
which we did agree in the budget.
Yeah.
£10,000, we put that into the EMR.
There's another 10,000 in the next one.
Yeah.
So do we have a proposal that was resolved by the
next bit. If you want to take a little bit of time.
But the thing that I'm unclear on, it just says that an additional £10,000 be added to town hall refurbishment. Is that because there's an additional £10,000 worth of cost?
But I don't think we've got there yet. We're just doing
No, we're not on that one. We're still
Oh,
trying to get to
I
that.
beg your pardon. I beg your pardon. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Sorry. Sorry.
So we're voting on that first one.
Yeah, so I'd like to propose that.
So Councillor Scott's in.
I'll put the town budget next to you there.
Seconded, Councillor Thornton, all in favour? That's the first one. Right, so that's everybody in favour of that one. Yeah, good. Now this is the one we got to recommend to Town Council additional £10,000 be added to the town refurbishment EMR. This figure to be comprised of 2,000 and a bit more from the existing unallocated EMR 357 and the balance from general reserves is to cover ongoing project management and other monthly costs that will continue until the contract's been concluded. £736.78 to reflect the remaining funding shortfall required to complete the project when Council agreed to allocate 105,000. And then additional expenditure incurred in April, totaling £2,259.71 to that forecast in the spreadsheet. So,
Sorry, I'm probably the person I'm getting confused here, but I thought we were just talking about the 10,000 for the play area equipment. And
we've done that
now
one.
We're now discussing the £49,000 earmarked reserves for
Oh, did you think about
retention fee.
Well, no, those are all, no, we voted on that as one proposal.
Okay.
We moved on to the town hall next. Do a separate.
We were asked to do one.
Well, it was on recommendation of moving.
So I wasn't at the F&O meeting, so I'm trying to understand whether the 49,000 earmarked reserves is an additional fee because of the work's being delayed. And if that's the case,
No, I tried to explain it. It's a payment that we would have made, but we're not making because
and it says it's not until the 27th, 28th.
Yes.
So why are we allocating it to earmarked reserves now when it's not due till the next budget? Sorry, I'm not asking you.
Yeah, wait till
I'm
yeah.
asking
Yeah, so we thought that potentially that 49,000 would be paid in 25-26 in the March. So the money was set aside at that point to pay it, but as we didn't pay it, we don't want to lose sight of it in this year. So we will set that aside now in our reserve for when we do that first payment. We have budgeted for the second payment in this year, and that second payment will be put in the EMR as well eventually if it isn't already. So we now have all the money from last year and this year's budget to pay for the retention.
Right, thank you.
When we get to this end of this financial year, we can put that in the EMR.
It's very carryover budgets, isn't it?
Yeah. So we're on the town hall bit.
Yeah.
So that is where new money is requested.
Yes. Yeah. And the reason we need an additional 10,000 is going back to what you just said, was that we had anticipated that the project would be finished at the end of March, but it's now moving forward potentially until the end of May, but I think more likely end of June. So the additional costs for that are project management costs, principally method and Greenwood's consulting, but we're trying to minimise those by only having site meetings as and when they are actually needed and are going to be beneficial because they are the cost of money. So that money is made up of those three principally.
Will these extra costs be recovered?
Unlikely, no. I mean, if the project needs to be managed, then they'll need to be paid. I don't know where they would be recovered from.
So it's the case that for as long as this project goes on, the council will continue to be charged, even if the council isn't at fault for the delays. Okay, I don't think that's good enough, and I think we should try and find out more as to why that's the case, because if any one of us were to get a contractor in to do some work and it took longer than expected, we wouldn't expect to continue paying them ad infinitum until they decided they were finished, especially if it was a fixed price job. So we'll have to need more detail later, I think. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with the Gordon said, because it's sort of almost connected to the time we remember a while back before Tara took over as Mark, the position where all tools would drop, wasn't it? You know, they said to be down off and get them working again, and sort of basically threat against all means possible. And obviously, things move well since then, seemingly. However, frustrating has been the overall context of how long it's taken to professional fees carrying on is a huge risk in terms of costs. So if there is still a means for recovery in this sense from any retention funds or anything like that in line with the contract for substantial or unsubstantiated delays, that would be constructive to look at, because the performance of the contractor needs to be measured against the contract to find anything to say that we don't have to pay any possible. For the retention stuff, actually, we have to resolve any issues that come with sort of workshop or material defects, and we take from that money. But obviously, there's the final payment at completion, which we need to make sure that we're not paying in total there's been disputed fees in the past for extra works and time delay and such. And those professional fees certainly would we need to define whether they are coming under the contract, which I don't know if it would, but it's good to check that.
Okay, thank you.
And just to come in very quickly on that, I mean, when this project was first considered, it was, correct me if I'm wrong, that it was presented to council as a fixed price contract, not one where the costs would continue to X.
I'm really sorry to interrupt you, but I just want to remind you that we are being recorded. That's all. You know, please be careful. If there's anything you're saying, you need to be confidential. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's fine. It's just, as I say, the cost was originally presented as a fixed price cost, and delays would not become a burden to the council, and that doesn't seem to be true at the moment.
Yeah, thank you.
So I think it's important to have a distinction between the project manager, who is effectively employed by us, and the contractor that's doing the job. And there are many reasons why we can push costs onto the contractor for late delivery of the project, but the project manager is effectively working on our behalf as our employee. So if we need to extend his contract, it's our job to pay for the extension of his contract to manage that project on our behalf. So I think there's a distinction there.
We have a performance manager.
Sorry.
But it's a mixture of those costs. Councillor Scott.
Yeah, I just want to make another point to council, which is the reason why the finance can't be approved by council unless council creates a budget for it. Hence the reason for asking for the £10,000 budget, so that the invoices can be paid.
Okay, should we
One final very quick question is, what is the incentive for the people responsible for this piece of work to get it finished? Because it seems like the longer the project goes on, the more it costs. So what is the incentive for the contractor to finish?
Completion funds and retention. Under contract terms, the fixed costs are difficult to define because of the active goal, the circulation of this one, we call that, and the ongoing difficulties that come out as a result of people pushing the limits of the contract.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. So, do we have a proposal to accept the recommendation of the F&O committee? Councillor Scott, a seconder, Councillor Wells, all in favour of this proposal? That's everybody. Thank you very much. The next item, FO 75/25/26, is the asset register policy. The committee noted that an asset register must be maintained to ensure that all fixed assets, long-term investments are appropriately safeguarded, managed and recorded. The asset register supports transparency, insurance, risk management and AGAR reporting. The asset register policy will be reviewed and resolved to recommend to full council for approval. In the minutes, yeah. Yeah, everyone happy? The proposer, accept this goes to the Gregor table is fixed. Hand up. Seconded. Councillor Wells is seconded. All in favour of accepting? That's carried. Everybody, thank you very much. And then we're on to we've done all this now. On to item number 9, review the scheme of delegation. We recommend that the council review and approve this the scheme of delegation.
Again, I'd like to comment, these are really helpful documents, thank you.
A chance to read through. So, have you got a proposer to accept the recommendation? Councillor Scott is proposing. Councillor Taylor is seconded. All in favour?
Sorry, was there an issue to do with the wording about voting rights on this one? Was that?
No, it
Was that a different one?
I think it's a different one.
It's a reference.
Sorry, quickly vote.
That's right. All in favour? People vote. Yeah. There. Yeah. Now, review of terms of reference for committees. terms of reference for the Finance and Ops Committee. That's another Councillor McCarthy.
Yes, so it should be noted that the terms of reference for the F&O Committee increased its delegated authority to spend up to £10,000 from £5,000. So the first thing is that wasn't made obvious in this agenda. So I think it should be more transparent to councillors and the public.
Yeah.
I did ask previously, but I haven't had an answer.
I've seen the answer. Sorry, I've interrupted before you finish.
Oh, well, what is the answer then?
Tara answered it, it's complicated.
The question was, why has this changed and who suggested it? So I did get part of the answer, was it's changed because of unknown building work. Seems maybe more clarity there, but it also didn't answer how this change came about. It's quite a big change.
Apologies, I didn't consider it. It was in consultation with the chair of the Finance and Operations Committee. It's a proposal, Gordon. It's not.
So
it's
when
for the councillors to discuss and approve.
So when you say it was a proposal, was it proposed and seconded?
No.
Right. So this is how bits of legislation get in without proper scrutiny, and I think it's poor governance. If somebody wishes to change, quite a large change to the terms of reference, they should table a motion, and councillors should discuss it, probably in public, and that should be minuted and resolved, and then the policy would be amended appropriately. Otherwise, it's very difficult for councillors and the public to know when changes are taking place, and this is a good example.
This is what this forum is for, to review the terms of reference.
As I said earlier, it wasn't obvious at all to councillors and the public that these terms of reference had changed.
So in future, as happened with the financial regulation, there might be a little bit more time on our side to list out, as we have done with other documents that have been happening to council, we will list out all the changes so they are very clear. But this is a forum to review the terms.
Yeah, so I'll go back to what I said again, because it might not have quite hit home. If people wish to make proposed changes to policies, quite big changes, they should table motions and councillors should be allowed to vote on those changes so it gets proper scrutiny. Individual councillors don't have delegated responsibility to simply put things into terms of reference which don't get picked up by councillors and get passed.
I don't think the intention was this was a personal proposal. This was working on improving the terms of reference to smooth the processes of how the council works and the delegation.
I disagree then, but with respect.
But yeah.
Councillor Wells.
Just a moment suggestions that means quite briefly. It's using the review function of this. Just a bit on the Word documents, so you can see whether edits made. That's a proposal, so you can like cross through and it's any change to something. So the group is quite hard to extract and compare differences and changes. In terms of the change, could we have justification for it? Is it down to the rate of inflation? £5 might be worth £10 now compared to last year, and over time. Is it pertaining that there are significant costs that would hold up and clutter decision making between the F&O committee executing it over full council? How often is it expected to have costs above £5 to need to be approved? And what we're looking at in context here, because we all kind of know that pound now isn't worth £1 was 5 years ago, so we have to make adjustments at times, but it is doubled. And I'd just like to ensure we know it.
Like to hand over to the chair of F&O, maybe.
So, I don't know if you are aware that there have been several times over the last year when the whole delegation of authority has had to go up through finance and then up to council, and there has been limited time. And then if we've had to call extraordinary meetings, that has caused some problems for councillors' diaries. We've also, at the same time, the Personnel Committee had to consider the amount of pressure on our current staff to produce all these reports within specified amounts of time, of which obviously they are aware that it's not being done fast enough. There have been complaints, but at the same time, when Personnel Committee discussed this matter, I said the best thing we can do to help support our staff at the moment is to try and cut down on the number of double meetings we have to have, and in terms of allowing the delegation of authority to happen properly to standing committees as it currently doesn't do. So that is the reason why the expenditure has been moved up to £10,000 in the event that you need, like what happened the other year, the roof leaking on the Solar Centre. When it is required to have an emergency repair on a roof, are we going to continue to expect, as happened last time, the local town clerk to start climbing up on the roof to try and find out what the problem is? Or are we going to have enough facility to be able to spend or commit to the expenditure of money to enable scaffolding to be put up and for a roofing contractor to actually do a proper job in an emergency situation? It is probably not going to be the case that the Finance Committee will necessarily be spending £10,000 at a time. But the whole point is that when we have to act under those situations, there needs to be a means of having to be able to effect those decisions quickly and not then have to rely on going up to council. That's why the £10,000 was suggested. That's based upon what has happened in the past and in trying to reduce the pressure of having to have double meetings to get certain items of emergency expenditure through. We have 2 properties to manage, and we will also now be taking on the town hall once it comes online. We do have to be sensible and prudent about what we may need to have in place in terms of our delegation of authority in terms of the amounts.
Yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying. I think they're 2 separate issues. Whether the staff have enough time to do the job properly and how we manage our finances. We shouldn't be changing the system because we don't have enough time to do it properly. So we need to make sure we've got the process right. If there's a resource issue, then we need to tackle that separately, whether that's staffing or whatever. £10,000 is a lot of money with our current level of reserves. And so it's important that those decisions are made carefully. I'm not saying that the committee wouldn't. My other concern is that we quite often find in our committees that they're close to being called, and it would then mean decisions are being made by a very small percentage of the council, which potentially have quite big financial ramifications. So I think it would be prudent to be cautious. I think we need to step this along in terms of getting the committees right, make sure we're getting the right attendance. There's a right number of people on each committee to make those decisions. So yeah, I'm concerned about that.
Okay. Somebody wants to make an amendment?
Yeah. Move it back down to 5,000.
I just want to point out that thank you, Cheryl, for the explanation, but that should have been written somewhere, that explanation, that justification, and it should have been made available to the public, because this isn't a closed shop. The public should be able to scrutinise our decisions. So having to raise it at this meeting has just delayed this meeting. And I think if we were to get more information, which was very useful before, we could make more informed decisions and take less time in these meetings. So hopefully we can think about that in the future.
Well, that's the point. It came to this meeting so it could be scrutinised and we're able to make an amendment if something was to change what's on the
Paul's making a practical suggestion.
Yeah, no, I did that.
And if it was to if we give an example that we have obviously minutes, which is carry headlines. We've got lots of committees that obviously there's different decision-making capacity in each of those. Sometimes what doesn't come through, and I think what we'll be able to get is the detail that would enable us to go, yeah, that makes entirely good sense, or to challenge it. There are means to do this other than just video recording, because obviously it's a watchable thing, and perhaps the council and obviously should consider use of technology to assist with this in terms of minute-writing software. You can start Teams up this thing now, and you could record the entire thing and then ask it to make 3 minutes and change the detail level. And those sorts of things might be interesting to introduce, where the support staff needs to create that background and that context.
Well, does anybody want to make an amendment to the proposal?
Yeah, I'll propose £5,000. I propose we move it back down to £5,000 rather than £10,000 in the interest of satisfying the comments that have been made.
I'd also add to that there's always, I think we've gone through a really tough period in terms of lots of unexpected costs and a bit of firefighting, and we're all kind of probably relate to that. Hopefully I've got a case going forward. But I would always be willing personally to attend those meetings should there be one. There was an extreme emergency to ensure safety of staff.
Okay. Thank you.
Expenditure.
So we have a second for second, Councillor Thornton seconding the amendment. So all in favour of the amendment to the terms of reference? All in favour of changing the amount down to £5,000? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 against, an abstention, one against, 2 against.
You're against moving it back down to 5,000?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the figure, it's the process.
I just wanted an explanation. We've
Yes.
gone from one extreme of 10 to 5.
Yeah.
And
Well,
it's been proposed a second down, but something in the middle that would have been more prudent given the cost of
Yeah,
So I've abstained.
Just for clarity, I mean, I did say that Cheryl's explanation was very good,
Yes.
and that kind of made a reasonable case for the extra amount. I just should have been clearer, so that's my opinion. Thank you.
The amendments, Martin.
Yeah, so it's vote on the
Sorry, I had 6 in favour and 2 against.
2 against and 1 abstention.
Thank you very much. I don't know.
So now we've got a proposal to accept terms of reference.
Might I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
There is a feeling from the office and the committee that there are going to be numerous payments or payments that not need to be, surprised over the kind of ground that it comes back to amend and even on a temporary basis so that we can re-amend it for next year, because there's always
Okay. If we find it occurs, okay, then we can do that. Proposal to accept the terms of reference with the F&O committee. Councillor Mackay. Second is Councillor Taunton. And all in favour? And that's Councillor everybody, yes. That's everyone. Must be minutes now, no, right. Terms of reference for the planning committee. Planning committee, there we go. Everyone okay with this? Anybody want to propose accepting these terms of reference? Or wish to make a comment?
No.
So, Councillor Robertson proposing. Somebody seconding. Councillor Gregory seconding. All in favour of before, you can't be doing it. So, all in favour of accepting the planning committee terms of reference? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In favour? Councillor Mackay?
Yeah, just, before I can vote, I'd like to ask the question, because I looked through it, but I didn't have the opportunity to compare it to the previous terms of reference. So were there any material changes? No. In that case, I'm more than happy with it.
That's noted.
Thank you.
And then it's the terms of reference for the staffing committee. Does anyone want to make any comments now before we proposals?
Yes, my only comment really is I think the staffing committee is too large, and I would propose it is made smaller. And to me, it seems that a staffing committee is by nature would be a smaller committee, whereas this one now takes up 6/10 of the council. That's not kind of normal, so I think the staffing committee should consider slimming itself down.
Okay.
And I would propose that as an amendment to those terms of reference, to reduce it to 5 people.
To 5?
From 6 to 5, I think. So, proposal doesn't have to say.
So I'd second that on the basis that there's, we only have so much time. We have quite a few committees. The trust is growing between what's recorded and how it's communicated between these formats and the way it's progressing from here. I think all is right, but to have more than half of the existing members of council on that, it feels imbalanced, and I think that it should be reduced as well.
It isn't just a isn't a regularly meeting committee.
No, I think that's the case really, because while everyone would love to be involved in the circumstance of recruitment,
Yeah.
and this is a very interesting, lovely thing to be involved with. We've had a lot of that, and I think that there might be less need for that going forward. So it's the idea that if we have a name against the staffing committee and it comes up in the meeting, it's another burden in the mind. That's when we think, oh, we should do that, but we're always committed.
Yeah.
So by reducing the number, we're reducing the number of commitments.
Yeah, okay.
And that's what we should always be careful of.
Thank you. Councillor Hughes?
Just just don't see it as being a problem. I mean, we have the biggest problem we have with our committees is filling the bloody seats up. And half the time we're struggling to make sure meetings are quorum. So I don't think we should be looking at the top limit. In fact, I'd be quite happy if every member of this council was on all the committees, and we get as much participation in those committees as we can from all councillors. So I don't think putting upper limits on really makes much difference at all. I'm quite happy with what's already there.
Okay, Councillor Scott.
Yeah, I'd like to support Sean in that. There is also another reason why the number is 6, because when you're starting to look at panels for HR processes, you need 3, and then 3 for an appeal. And therefore, if you want to keep it within the personnel committee, 6 is a good number.
We've had a proposer and a seconder. Did you second it?
Yeah, but have we allowed to respond on that or not? Is it finished?
Respond well. Yeah, if you've got something on say, so take vote.
Yeah, I think both those points are very well made in some respects, but what we have got now with the group is a certain amount of expertise from each one of the experiences on these committees. However, there may be expertise outside of those things. We start going on the route saying, you have lots of people who are on committees. You open yourself up to the idea that people don't ever turn out because we want that. You need a committee group where they're regularly take the roles and responsibilities of that committee. And if there are means for extra people to be involved, it should be perhaps something else, and particularly committee staffing, to resource only from an inside group and not from outside is potentially restricting that as well. So specifically with a group like this, it doesn't need to be regularly, it's only when it comes about. It is something that should be, effectively when decision making is progressed and it's actually meetings, when it comes to the point there's more people involved or needed, then open it up so we can involve. But as soon as you commit 10 people to 6 different things each, you're ballooning it unnecessarily based on the fact that there's only a certain amount of decision making can take place in that forum. And as well as it's communicated well onto the full council, etc.
I understand that. Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you. If we're going to vote this, so we've got a proposal second for an amendment to reduce the membership down to 5 instead of 6. So any in favour of the change? 1, 2 in favour. Against? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 against. Abstaining. Mandy, you abstaining? Yes, she's abstaining. Did you get that? So it's not carried. Do we have do we have someone to propose the staffing committee terms of reference as they are? Councillor Scott's proposing. Councillor Taylor? Seconded. All in favour? Everybody's in favour. That's good. Terms of reference for the Community Events Committee. Councillor Mackay?
Just to note that I did
You did.
query that might fact the gender version may be slightly out of date, but I think that's been done now, so fine, thank you.
I've got a point of clarification. Somewhere in the community events blurb, it says that there should be more council members than non-council members. Is 5 enough? Because that way we can only have 4 other people on the committee.
No. You can have other people on the committee, you can invite other people onto the committee, that's been given, it's been allowed for in terms of reference, but what it's essentially, I mean, this was originally put out when the 4 non-councillor members were going to be voting, but obviously we've removed the voting, but still those 4 members are going to be the ones that would attend regularly. But then there will be others, where we would form working groups, and we'd have other things, and then you invite other people, other organisations, as and when. Yeah. But when this was discussed at council and passed, which I think was at the last council meeting, so it's quite recent. This discussion was had, and it was decided that the reason those 4 had been recommended was because of the knowledge, the fact that they're heavily involved in events, etc.
One quick question from the terms of reference. Have any external representatives, it says in the terms of reference that external representatives have to be approved by council, and I'm not aware of that happening, and is that something that's going to happen?
Can I answer that question? So, this is the annual meeting of Town Council at which we elect all the members onto the committees. This is the meeting at which that happens, and because the events committee has only had 1 meeting, and obviously would then have to be reconstituted at this meeting. Nothing has been done yet, but obviously that would be the aim as it meets at the next meeting.
Okay. We'll just come back very quickly. It's a very aggressive response, but I'll take it. It was just the fact that this might be an opportunity to say there's no need for council to approve these, and maybe the committee could do it itself by a small amendment to the terms of reference, which might be pragmatic and save some council work.
So, Gordon, you're suggesting that it should be the committee that decides to adopt the amendments onto it?
Yeah.
That's, so, yeah, that's, I'm just clarifying that.
Right. You question whether it needs to come back to full council.
I believe what Michelle would probably say is that there's a means under the remit of the council that has to approve those things and one is committee, so I think that's the case. And they can come up and support quite fluidly. We'd love to see lots of people involved there. Of course, as Michelle also said, there's working parties and committees and focal groups and things like that, and also can resolve these terms of reference, which I think supports that wider involvement type of thing.
Could I just address Councillor Mackay and the manner in which you responded to Councillor Scott? I don't think they need to describe her response back to it. You know, from what I understood, she made a quite clear response to your question and termed it, you know, aggressive or whatever. I think it was inappropriate.
I apologise. I felt intimidated, so that's all.
So, does somebody want to make an amendment, or are we going to accept these as they are?
We'd just like to say at the moment what has gone into this, and it's an innovative and really positive something that's rising from the flames, I guess, and there's a lot of opportunity in it with how things can be taken going forward. And I'd just like to thank Michelle for the exorbitant amount of time and effort that's gone into this, and how much we've seen progress to this point, and it's really exciting when we've gone to our first meeting to see the types of conversations and the input on those things, and hopefully that will go on from that to be something reconstructed as other people imagine, you know, wider bodies and other things be involved in this. So the events calendar for Midland North can be expanded, the remit grown under this guide, and we hope that might evolve one day to become something even better again.
Yeah, there was a good, as we said, the council meeting was very positive first meeting, where it goes from there, and we'll see. We've got a proposal for the terms of reference for the...
What's the amendment that's been proposed?
No, we're not amending it. Keep it the same as it was. Proposal. Councillor Wells, seconded. Councillor Thornton, all in favour? That's everybody. Thank you. So, is that it? Yes. So now on to item number 11, which is the appointment of members from following committees. So the Finance and Operations Committee, 5 members. Should invite?
I'm happy to be nominated.
Do people want to put themselves forward?
Can I just ask, is this not what everyone had already kind of responded to, and is there
list
already? Or was that just willing that? Okay, so it's just
It probably best be started from scratch.
Okay.
I'm happy to nominate Cheryl to be the person in charge of the finance.
Put ourselves forward.
We're not doing chairs of committees, it's just members of the committees.
I'd like to nominate Cheryl to be a member of the finance.
So
We just put ourselves forward.
that's not the way it's done.
We just put ourselves, so Cheryl's put herself forward, she's been on the F&O committee. I'd like to put myself forward.
I'll put myself forward again for the finance for that.
Councillor Thornton. Anybody else?
Can we just have a show of hands initially?
Okay.
Not easy to count.
3.
Like you lose track of those.
1, 2, 3.
That's only 2 more.
Yeah. So anybody else want to put themselves forward to be on F&O committee?
Okay, I mean, my concern is that we have got to fill 21 positions on these committees, which means that every councillor in this room will have to step up and do their fair share. Historically, that's not been the case, and it puts the burden on a small amount of councillors to step up to the committees. So, yeah, I mean, I'm happy to do my bit, but it's just knowing that we're actually collectively all going to be shouldering the burden between us, not as we have been historically.
In December 2022, Council resolved to bring the function of the F&O Committee into full council, and accept that some meetings may be slightly longer, and the trade-off would be all councillors would be involved in the F&O committee. So that's why I feel disobliged to sit on that committee.
Right. Councillor Wells, you put yourself forward?
No, I'd just like to follow up Sean and Gordon's, concerns and also support for these functions, because what's quite clear is at certain times, as the council's time goes on, we can even see the progress that's been made in 2023 with how we review those terms of reference. It's been a very smooth process. The council seems to be working extremely well together to the extent that it can at this point compared to the past. The need for these different committees may be that they need further discussion and committed time at certain times. We've had an incredibly large and difficult financial implication in the last 3-4 years. We've had lots of staffing change in the last 3-4 years. We've always got a plan committee. We also have now a need for for commitment time to be put into filling the assets and filling the town up with exciting events and things like that. So it's where we commit our time in an official manner that will dictate and say what we are doing as a council. Now, if we focus overly on finance operations as a separate entity from full council, and if there is potential to bring that in, if we're looking at the idea that there's too much, likewise for any of the others, well, maybe we need to bring planning into it to reduce the commitment, as Sean says, and to also be aware of the fact that we keep this inconsistency start and stop these committees without due justification for it, to look at it through a sense, so there's continuity. And if we're really busy with finance operations, it's really becoming contorted to do that and operate that at the council, and then separate it off, and other times we bring it back in, depending on the volume of work and the fluidity of that working. So I'd just like to maybe not consider it now, but call for formally to be reviewed. So I believe that's been started. It's along the same sentiment as, do we need 6 people on the same committee? So it's just a follow-up and support, really.
It's that's good. That's what we can come back. We've got 3.5 pages of get through, and we're really just trying to. We are where we are. We've got an appointment to these committees. We can discuss whether we keep them or not at a later date. But for now, we need one more member of the F&O committee. For the people here.
Okay.
No, I've got you down.
You said yes. You said yes. So it's fine. So I've learned not to go to the toilet during these meetings.
So we'll go and see what we've got. We've got committee. So a planning committee then.
Have we got 4 on that? Sorry.
We've got 4. We're going to move on. We're not going to wait around. We'll fill them with people on the vote. We'll put this out forward.
Planning committee, yeah, I've got some.
So, Councillor Wells. Yeah. Mr. Robertson.
May I make a proposal that, if that's the right word, that planning, do they need 5 members?
This is one of the what do you call it, Charles? Sorry,
What we had last year was an arrangement where we didn't have enough members for quorum, and we had, I think it was Sean, Martin and myself were kind of like dip in and out to make quorum. And my understanding is, once we get to scheduled meetings, that planning comes before finance. So those who were on the finance committee, which is why it was Martin, Sean and myself last year, said, well, we'll come to the planning half an hour before finance meeting. Don't worry, Sean, I'm not.
So that's brilliant. Put myself in for that one.
And I think again, it's a case like exactly like Charles said, that we have to. I think the formal approach in the idea of being on these committees and being like a commitment for 6 times a year, 12 times a year, whatever it is, we need to become a little bit more shrewd with when and how we handle things. We had a report come forward from Tara with looking at how and when we do these sorts of things, and it needs to be really looked at. Because
Tim, can I just stop, because we've talked about how we do this in the process. We can discuss at the time, but we just need to fill this. Is that okay? We just move on. So have we got anybody else?
Yeah, you can put me up as one of the floaters.
Okay.
Sorry, I've got Tim and I've got Linda and I've got Martin and Cheryl as floaters.
Yeah.
Well,
if it continues to be before finance, I don't understand why I can't say clearly and do planning as well.
Okay. Excellent.
Okay. Moving on to staffing committee.
Yeah, I
So
can
we've
do
got
that.
Mandy and Wendy and Cheryl and Sean. Couple of ones. Anybody else? Sport moment.
I missed one, sorry, I've got Wendy, Cheryl Sean to leave.
Yeah. Looking around the
You can put mine in.
we'll put you on. And if you can't, you can let them out, somebody else will step in. Community events committee.
I'll join that.
That's on the side.
I'm happy to join that.
Yeah. So Mandy, Wendy, Lee, Luann, on a roll now.
I was going to say, that's one I did say to tell me I wanted to be.
And I said
Joe would come along. Gordon, would you like to join that one?
We've already got
It's not room for me.
Go
There's not
on.
room, there's not room for me.
There's loads of rooms.
I
Or you go to...
I may be able to go as a representative of the town trust, you never know.
I would just like to say that depending on when the meetings are, I'd love to go to those, but I don't want to make a commitment because they're quite big. And it's a nice thing that if we can go on so we can.
Well, with that, you would say
You would say.
I agree.
there'd probably be, 4 or extra one, whatever, so they wouldn't be that.
Can we operate on the same basis as suggested by Cheryl? And if there is a gap that someone needs to give line or give apologies, there's another councillor invited or it fits.
Actually, it was other councils can come along as well.
But in terms of sitting on the committee or contribution to decision making, there's 5
You're
already.
reserve member.
Yeah.
Sorry?
You're reserve member.
Yeah, so that's the point. It's the same arrangements that if we have 5 and there's another needed, and someone
So,
else make it.
Okay, so we've currently got 4 for Tapano, 5 for planning, 5 for staffing, and 5 for community events.
Is that the name of the board?
Yeah. So those are the recommendations. Does he propose?
I'd like to propose all those
Councillor
people be elected to the
Scott,
committees
those
as specified.
Councillor Robertson seconded all, vote in favour of those people being elected to those
Yes.
committees. Yeah, everyone's doing that. Everybody resolves.
Can I suggest,
Yeah.
I've looked through the attendance figures for this council on all our meetings, and I think it'd be useful if we actually shared those figures. I'm not going to share them, but I think it would be useful if we share those figures and understand the attendance and how that impacts the function of this council. In Baines, the attendance figures are published on the website, so the public can understand that their councillors, what the councillors are doing, and what meetings they're attending on their behalf.
Yeah, the parties.
I thought all councillors' attendance was published at some point during the year.
Sorry?
Town councils, all our attendance is published at some point.
It's published, I mean, every time there's a meeting, it's minuted.
No, but isn't there? Sorry to interrupt. Isn't there a summary given at the end of the year, or is it in the? I'm sure there's something that says how many meetings councillors have attended.
It's not something we can do. It's something we can do.
I think it exists.
Right.
I mean, the data exists, but I'll follow up with the fact that this is an extremely performance of our Baines. There's no appropriation of public funds for anyone being paid to be in a role at Baines. They're elected positions. This is a voluntary role. To extend decision making to include publicisation of presenteeism is probably not a measure of performance as such, and the productivity of each committee at the full council and what it attains to is a better measure of that as opposed to effectively making suggestions that we track and trace.
What's the better measurement?
Yeah, no,
Productivity.
Yeah. Well, you can't measure that. We'll come back to that, but we don't need to do that right now. Thank you. Move on to item number 12. Thank you, Sean, for that. Let's see. Review the adoption of standing orders. Councillor McKay.
Yes. So I put something in writing earlier, and the clerk helpfully put in an opinion, which is very gratefully appreciated. Now, shame Wendy's just left, but my friends Wendy and Sean made several excellent contributions before they came on to Midsummer Norton Town Council, because they were able to come to meetings and raise issues with the council. Now our standing orders do not permit that. So what we're really saying to members of the public is you cannot raise things. In theory, the best way a member of the public could raise it with us is they could go to the individual councillor. A councillor could make a request of the clerk to put an item on the agenda to potentially discuss it. So I don't think that's very good for transparency. For many, many years, we had a time set aside that if a member of the public came, they could ask a question about anything they liked within those first 20 minutes, and I think that was a good level of engagement, which I see in other town councils as well. So that's my proposal, is that goes back.
We currently have the public question time, but it means that because that's related to the items on the agenda.
It's been changed now, so it's only on the items on the agenda, and of course we've moved it into the meeting, which means we then have to suspend standing orders to let the public speak, and it can technically be minuted or whatever, or all sorts of things. Before we had a time set aside at the beginning of the meeting, people like Sean used to come and ask some very good pertinent questions, and I think that was a useful feature for council and democracy. So that's my proposal, that we put that back.
Right. Any comments on that, or just second?
Is that in addition to public participation?
Yes, effectively, because I think that what used to happen in the past is somebody would come to a meeting, and if it did want to ask a question about a specific item on the agenda, they would ask the question, whatever, and usually the chair would then move that agenda item to the beginning, so it would be relevant, and then you could leave. Obviously, council is free to suspend standing orders at any point and bring somebody in, but it doesn't tend to happen very often. But that time at the beginning of the meeting is a time just to raise issues. I'll say no more. Thank you. Sure.
I agree with that. I prefer it to be part of the meeting because I want the council to be held to account. I don't want it to be something that happens before the meeting and doesn't necessarily get recorded. If a member of the public's taken the time to come and tell us that they've got an issue or concern or want to comment on an item, I think that should make up part of the meeting, and I think it should be. That's the way we're held to account is by that happening.
Yeah. So just to come back to instantly, just the fact that the way it was before though is if somebody came with a question, if it wasn't written down, they didn't have to expect an answer on the time, which makes sense, but it said they would be given a written answer which would be minuted in the fullness of time. So that's what you're after, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, Councillor Scott.
I'd like to ask what it is in standing orders that you're seeking to amend. Because that's what we're discussing, standing orders. I agree that there is potentially a need to discuss whether or not they should be what you're proposing, but that is not, unless you're planning to change standing orders, that should be a separate motion that comes to council, surely. So that we can actually properly discuss it at the proper time. At the moment, unless you're planning to propose an amendment to standing orders, which one is it and what is it you're proposing?
If it's not something that's suitable for the standing orders, I apologise for bringing it up, but I think it would be
Should be
good.
discussed, but do you see what I mean? There's time and place.
Okay. Well, so Councillor Beth made your point. Anybody else have any points to make on or just something to propose?
Look, the amendment I would put in then that would be relevant is I don't think councillors during the standing orders have a period for public participation, which we then have to suspend standing orders to bring them in, which I think is a bit clunky. But if we are going to keep that in, I don't think it should be limited specifically to items on the agenda. It's at the chair's discretion, because I think people should be able to. It's in the standing orders.
Yeah, which one is it?
Oh, I don't know. It's item.
We can find it.
I don't know. You'd think I'd know these things off by heart, but the point is, it's an easy way for council to stop people asking questions by saying you can't ask a question about that because it's not on the agenda. So it isn't very fair. People from the public should be able to come in and question us on.
But you're saying that the member of the public would be able to come in, but it wouldn't basically just making the point because they wouldn't be expected to receive a reply at that point. If there's been asking a question of an item that's not on the agenda that nobody's prepared for. So,
yeah, but
so they're just coming in to make a general observation on their feelings.
Well, they should be able to come in and say, I'd like more details about something, and the council would say, well, we can't give you the right in the moment, but it's now been presented to us, and we will come back to you with a written answer. But at the moment, they wouldn't be allowed to do that unless there's already an item on the agenda.
But that would take, it might take time from the 20 minutes.
The chair can manage that.
I think that you can do that. That's how I first became involved in the council. I wrote to you when you were the mayor and said, I'm happy with Wellow
Yes.
Path, whatever.
Yeah.
And then that wasn't on the agenda, and then it was put on the agenda. So I had given Linda some warning, but it wasn't part
so it
of the.
happens. It
Yeah.
happens that way. Yes. Yeah.
Typically, what you have at the beginning of a meeting is not necessarily public questions, it's normally public statements.
Yeah.
So any member of the public come in and make a statement on anything they want, whether it's on the agenda or not.
Mm.
It's not, it doesn't typically enter into a debate at that point. It's a public statement which the council will respond to at some point, and there is an obligation to the council to respond to a statement if they requested a response to it. But at that point, it's just making a statement and we would note it. Because you can't be expected to be able to answer every statement that turns up without prior knowledge of it. So I don't know what standing orders state about that public section. Does it say public question or public
It
statements?
says members of the public may make representations, answer questions, and give evidence at a meeting which they're entitled to attend in respect of the business on the agenda.
Okay. I understand what Will says. Yeah, it should be limited to the agenda. A member should be able to try and say, I'm not happy about something.
Councillor Scott.
There's one thing you're all forgetting in all of this. Standing orders are interpreted and the chair has the final say. The chair could decide to let that statement stand even if it wasn't on the agenda. Chairman has discretion. The alternative is, the amendment that you're proposing is to standing order 3E and you just delete in respect of the business on the agenda. That's the amendment you're proposing, right?
Correct.
Okay. So you're proposing that, right?
I don't propose it quite yet, but I might say that this kind of discussion is really helpful. It identifies from your own sort of perspective about the idea that you have standing orders to create formalities and focus on the agenda items. To have an open discussion.
Tim, I'm looking at can we focus on the content?
Yes.
On the process that we're going
content.
I appreciate, Well, no, you talk about the process that we discussed it and changed it, which is a positive thing. That's good. Can we focus on, because we are still 3 pages down.
We're getting through it really well, and then it is to ask that we promote that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Because it's
the
really
discussion is positive. It's good. So we're going to second it for Gordon's proposal to slightly change the wording. Councillor Taylor, seconded. All in favour? Right, that's passed. So just delete it. It's about,
My vote.
in this, yeah.
I'm going to vote against.
Right, and 1 against. Okay, is all in favour and 1 against? So,
For the minutes, sorry, can we just clarify the exact wording of 3E, is it?
yeah, members of the public may make representation, answer questions, and give evidence of meeting which they
They're
take.
entitled to attend, full stop. Delete the rest of the clause.
Get rid of in respect of the business.
Yes.
Yeah.
So answer questions, or is it answer questions? Or you answer questions?
Must ask, yes, change it.
Be asked, surely.
I didn't look at that. Okay, so all in favour?
So I thought we voted.
No, we voted that. A
Sure.
proposal for the terms of reference.
No, I have a second amendment. I have a second amendment to propose. It's very short. Second, very short. It is simply that, and this is in line with the model standing orders, which have been adopted by most councils, is that a decision whether to grant a dispensation shall be made by the proper officer or by the council committee or subcommittee. And that is quite common for many reasons. And actually, typically, that's the practice we follow, because we've had several votes on dispensations amongst the council. So the proper officer may not always be in a position to make a dispensation. Council could decide. So it's literally just adding or by meeting of the council committee or subcommittee. And that is from the NALC. That is from the NALC model standing orders. So.
Yeah, okay, Councillor Scott, came back on that.
The NARC model standing orders, when they're produced as a template, contain things in square brackets and they contain things in curly brackets, and each officer of the council is expected to amend those orders as appropriate. So the fact that the NARC model template says or means you're meant to select which one you want, not have all of them, because otherwise then you start to get confused. Okay, so it's not that all councils have adopted it, it's just that is what the model template says, and if you read the instructions, the model template says the The square brackets give you alternatives and you select the one that you want. You can, so either council does it or the clerk does it. It's as simple as that really. Or, you know, subcommittees, we don't have any anyway, so they're not difficult. But actually, if you're talking about things like delegation of authority, do you really want that going to a subcommittee of only 2 people?
Well, thank you very much for that. That was really helpful. So I'll clarify my amendment was just the fact that I think dispensation should be granted by a meeting of the council. The council should generally decide, even though it still has to be sent to the proper officer in advance, as you said in your email, Tara. That's correct. But I think it probably puts the clerk in an unfair position as well to have to make that decision.
Not really. That's one of the functions of the clerk, is to keep us compliant and legal.
No, but there's an option to be compliant legal, so it could be either. The council can decide or the clerk can decide.
Either way, I think you need to be very careful about making ad hoc amendments to policies without actually giving it due process. And I think it's something that needs, you need to ensure that there are no other consequences to the decision. So I wouldn't support that amendment.
Okay. And if I come back to that, as Cheryl put out, it is in the model standing orders, you get a choice. And in the past, this council...
It's very easy to say it's in this, it's in that.
Yeah.
It's every decision we make has to be evidence-based, and we haven't got the evidence here to review it properly. So I suggest it needs to be reviewed correctly against the evidence, and then that can come back as another item.
Council kind of made a proposal, amendment, proposed an amendment. Does anybody second that?
I'm sorry, I lost track of what it is.
So it's Standing Order 13E. And that is a decision as to whether to grant a dispensation shall be made by the proper officer, and that decision is final. So the alternative is by the council as opposed to the proper officer. I presume that's what you're trying to do. Yeah.
Can you just tell me who the proper officer is? Okay. So you can grant dispensations rather than the full council.
Okay. So no second. That amendment fails. So we're going with the original.
The original is that the council can grant dispensation.
The original is the proper officer.
Yeah, and you're proposing that it should be the council, right?
Okay. Well, we haven't got a second of the amendment. We've got a proposal of the amendment, we haven't got a second of the amendment. So this we've got a second.
I'll second it for the purposes of putting it to the vote.
Okay. So second, all in favour of amending it to from the proper officer to the council being voted on the dispensation. All in favour is 1. All against is 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Against, abstaining is 2. So we return to the original. Yeah.
Original amendment.
No, the original.
I thought you made one amendment first and then added the other one to it.
The first one failed,
Okay.
and then the second one was failed.
Yeah. Okay.
So the first one we accept.
The first one we accepted, sorry, but the second one we failed.
Second one.
And now we're back to the original. So whether we accept the original with amendment. The first one. Yeah. Okay. So proposed by Councillor Scott, seconded by.
What's this for?
This is the document, the
I
standard.
want to make another amendment.
You're making another amendment.
Yeah. It's related back to what we were speaking about members of the public. I just think that should be rearranged for clarity. Because it talks about things open to the public, yada yada. Then it says, you know, what we described in the amendments which are ready, but necessarily a problem with that. But I think that F should be before E, so it's quite clear that where is it? Yes. Yeah, F should be before D, because it says members of the public can come. It says then the period of time designated for public participation is 20 minutes to start the meeting. It's all alluded to. It's unclear that they can talk about anything, not just things on the agenda.
Yeah.
Because there is also the case, and the purpose of E, I believe, is that what's behind it is that someone could come onto the meeting relevant to something they might be invited or otherwise come along and requested to speak on an agenda item they've seen, and able to do that during the meeting so we can stop standing orders. Is that my right understanding?
So you want to swapping that around?
Yeah. Because it says the following, because why it's also confusing with that, exactly what Sean pointed out and Gordon, is that we want to encourage public attendance, and participation in the 20 minutes, and then also if they have a contribution that's relevant to the meeting or otherwise, they can also then contribute later in the meeting. To propose it as D, which makes sense, introduces the idea of the public. E then says public make representations, but I think what you put before that is...
Sorry, they can't contribute during the meeting. That's the whole point. They're not allowed to contribute during the meeting.
So I think
unless the council gives them permission to speak.
Exactly, that's the point. So that can happen, but I think the order of it is confusing. So I think F should come before E, so it follows on then that the public can come. The period of time for the public is 20 minutes. They can talk about what they like in that time, whether it's relevant to the meeting or not. And then it says they limit for 3 minutes, and that's the bit of the public. I just think the order of it can cause confusion for people who attend.
Right, so not materially changing, just the other things.
Yeah, it's just
your
it's
proposal.
it's so we can understand it well.
Okay, see if we've got a second to amend
Yeah.
the amendment, then we'll second that amendment, copy and F round, make it clear to people. No, second it. No. So there's no second, so just carry. So we'll return it to the.
Hang on now.
What do we? I'll just remind councillors we've got 3.
It's not a bad thing at all. It's just
Well,
It's a clarity.
yeah.
It's a
yeah,
line
well,
okay.
I mean, we keep
Yeah, I'm
it the
happy to
same,
second.
it doesn't
I'm
matter.
happy to second that.
Okay, all in favour of, a little bit late, but you're in favour of the amendment? In favour of the amendment, 1, 2, in favour of the amendment, or against the amendment? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Lazy, 4 against the amendment.
Don't care.
Don't care, right. Alright, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are against it, 2 don't care. Thank you. Right, so we return it to these, we understand the others still. So,
I'll propose the document.
Councillor Scott proposed the amended document as one amendment, seconded by Councillor Robertson. All in favour of staying orders 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We're all accepting it. Good, we can move on. Well, I'm going to ask Councillor Scott to take over while I've got to the lead. Financial regulations.
We'll just have a comfort break maybe for 2 minutes.
So,
We'll have a
don't we vote to suspend the meeting
We've
for
got
5
to
minutes?
Okay.
I propose we suspend the meeting for 5 minutes.
Yes, I
all in
agree.
favour? Yeah, all in favour. Right, okay. Thank you. Everybody going to resume the meeting. 3, 4, 5. We're on to agenda item 12, review and adoption of financial regulations. Councillor Scott.
Yes, so bearing in mind that there's already been a discussion over the terms of reference of Finance Committee, and an amendment has been proposed about the limit being £5,000. This set of regulations will need to be amended to reflect that. There is an explanation of the main changes in the first 2 pages, but obviously the amendment of £5,000 as the limit will need to be proposed again for these regulations, which I'm doing so now, just to get that out of the way. Anywhere where it refers to it in the financial regulations be reduced from 10,000 to 5,000.
Proposed.
Yes, proposed.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Right, all in favour of the amendment to get it in line with the F&O terms of reference? Yes. Okay. Then we'll vote it. So we've got one amendment, which is here, where it says 10,000 goes back to
For the amendment or for the,
Yeah, the amendment.
just the amendment?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other amendments? No? Okay. All right, so we've got a proposal for the financial regulations. Councillor Wells is proposing. Second, it's Councillor Scott. All in favour? Everybody's in favour. Good, thank you very much. Item 13, review of arrangements with other local authorities, not-for-profit and businesses. It's recommended this is deferred to the Finance and Ops meeting in the first instance, and then probably come back here, and it's removed from the order of business for the annual meeting as per Standing Order 5J. Okay,
Very quick comment to note, as much as it's appreciated to reference the standing order subsection and Roman numeral, it is a minefield And I would be perfectly happy if in future it just said per the standing orders, because it's almost impossible to reference them correctly, so to make it easier for everybody, including the staff. So,
Okay, well, thank you. So I propose to defer this item. Councillor Mackay, seconded by Councillor Wells, all in favour? Everybody's in favour of deferring it, that's good. Item 14, election of council representatives to outside bodies, including Town Trust and Recreation Trust Management Committee. Recommended that the members review the reports. I've got the report here in front of me, and confirm their willingness to serve as representatives on the bodies which report regularly to full council. What I think we're suggesting is a short paragraph where you have attended a meeting that's presented before, rather than getting into a non-verbal explanation of what went on. But if you've been to a meeting that you're of an outside body linked to, can you prepare just a short statement summing up the outcome of the meeting, and then you can read that out of the meeting, or people can ask questions about that. So we've got to read through the council mechanics.
I want to quickly come in there, because we did try to introduce it a few years ago, and we used to have a section called reports from outside bodies. Yeah. I think it should come back, and what we try to do is say the reports, if you wish to make a report from an outside body, it should be in a written format for the meeting to be noted and to receive questions. There's no point in then reading it out, which makes the meetings longer. So can we all agree there?
So you can tell it too. Okay.
I think it's good that it's a written report.
Yes, that's good. Yes. Okay. So we've got Al Curtin now is myself and Cheryl. Community Trust is myself. Well, we all have to do that. Yeah. Will you do that one? Read that one.
Sorry, to interrupt you, that was
Oh, that's this, right,
that's
so,
the existing,
yeah,
that,
so
middle colour is the existing.
Yeah, so we're happy to, so we just take, we're happy to carry on.
So I just wanted to...
Yeah, so does anybody else want to do either of those? Be a representative of the, on NALC and ALCA?
No.
Myself and Cheryl, I would attend the
Thank you, good work.
All right, anybody else want to go on with some Community Trust?
What's the requirement for that trust now? Do you still see how the required number of councils to make for?
I don't know. There's three of us who are on there. There's only one person named that I know about all
the terms of reference, not the terms of reference, the community trust is set up to have 4 appointed councillors and 7 community members.
Okay.
Bearing in mind that I left the community trust because I wasn't allowed to contribute to council meetings due to the conflict of interest.
And so, is this one of those 4 people, or is it just a representative that comes and speaks on behalf of that group?
It's one of the...
You represent the council.
Yeah.
Clarification. I thought the community trust had been disbanded and now had a community events thing.
Community association trust is still
Community Trust still
Community
exists.
trust still exists, but they don't manage the buildings anymore, so they've kind of taken some of their facility, like their function, they produce
So what do they do now?
events.
Well, you can ask them.
No, the community, our new committee, the community and...
They
Events
are a
committee, that's the town council committee.
Yeah.
That's not the same thing.
They're a contribute.
The community trust is a separate body, isn't it? Like the town trust, community trust, and the...
They're like an organisation, just like other ones, like
Yeah.
Rural Region. They sit on that new committee now, so they're a member of the events committee, and all other events organised, essentially, like council associations.
So, I'll happy to carry on. Does anybody else? I thought you were on there, didn't you? Still on there? So,
So can I just clarify, the community trust, previously, because of its function, it would have had 4
yeah.
on it, but currently there's only been 1. Is it still the same format within the community trust that they require, like for...
Well, they don't change anything about that.
No, so I did it before on the community trust.
And who is the chair of that?
It's changed at the moment. It's in a state of
Flux.
yes.
And when will that be clear?
Well, when we have meetings at the next meeting.
It's,
At the next meeting.
as I understand it, it's like if there's members...
There's been a lot of change at the end of the last financial year. Several people, because of all the events that happened, have decided they don't want to be part of it anymore. So it's having to re-establish itself. But it exists as an identity, as an organisation. But the individuals within it are fluid at the moment because people have left because of what's been going on for the last year. So there we go.
And just to obviously give context as well, I understand which is what Conservative, someone else's support with that is that the Community Trust is still going to deliver three of the major events.
No, it's not. No, it'll contribute to that. Well, I mean,
The council allocates funds for events. Community Trust.
No, the council has. We don't go into detail, but no, the Community Trust at the moment has been asked and is helping with the summer fair because it has delivered the summer fair in the past. So the only agency that's helping that.
Because of the
that's the limit to its involvement with the town council at the moment.
And I guess the question is where if we put one person forward to support that, we're showing that we're not supporting it because we're not putting four people forward as we have done in the past, which may support engagement and growth of the committee. The elected chair may have functions to be able to perhaps contribute to events in the future. So what we're raising here is, I think, is quite important to. I personally have the capacity to do that, but I'm saying that I think it's really important that the future is supported because they are a very, active and effective group of people that have produced a lot of events and great things for the town. So where it's changed, it shouldn't be allowed to die because the council.
Well, it has been invited along to the
Of course, if they have meetings and there's councillors here that might see that as a great opportunity to contribute to them to what has been very effective in the past. It's got a new function, it's got a new remit, but it's the active, they're the active kind of doing things, aren't they?
Yeah, we hope to. Councillor McKay?
It should be noted that the council, when it appoints people to the Community Trust, is not as council representatives, it is as trustees of the Community Trust. There has become an issue with conflicts of interest, but they're not simple council representatives, they become trustees of the charity. So the Community Trust is set up specifically to have 4 trustees that are on the town council.
That's what I was trying to clarify, because it's actually not just like you go along and represent, it's actually like you're running it, the council is running it as well.
Yeah, that's the future's uncertain. Councillor Scott.
The council is appointing representatives to outside bodies to represent the council. On the Community Trust, something different happens. This happened in Keynsham as well. We used to appoint council representatives to the music festival. And then one year they signed them all up as trustees, which then meant their position changed. So the council really needs to take a view, not now, but in the future, as to whether or not representatives it's elected to go on the Community Trust should indeed be signed up as trustees. But as Gordon has said, quite rightly, they have been signed up as trustees to date, and that has created a conflict of interest that has been very difficult, obviously, to navigate. And it is very difficult.
So this is the difficult to relieve that. We'll move on to those. We're not going to get 4 people, and we need to move on. So move on to the Recreation Trust. Councillor Robertson, Councillor Plant, Lucas and Wells. I'm happy to carry on. If anybody else wants to, as in Wells, I'm not sure about. So if anybody else wants to make one now, or not. Okay. Midland Norton Town Trust, Councillor Mackay, Taylor, Scott and Wells. Have to continue? Yeah, okay.
We asked if anyone else wants to join you as well, since they are.
No, you have to be obviously want to join. Summer Valley Forum, Councillor Robertson and Lucas. Councillor Robertson, you want to carry on? You are you?
Yes.
You are there.
Been chair of that for about 15, 16 years now.
Anybody else? Be part of that at this point. Somerset Dorset Railway Heritage Trust, Councillor Mackay. Yeah, he's happy with that. Anybody else? No. Walter Rovers, Councillor Wells. Yeah. Anybody else?
I'm not going to tread anyone's toes, but I've been doing a bit of work with them. I wouldn't mind
that's right.
a year on that one.
Yeah. So, Councillor Hughes as well, the Walter Rovers.
Well, how many are we allowed?
There's only one there.
We've only allowed one there.
Yes, because the representation of that format puts somebody on their board on behalf of the council. So the council, as the sole trustee of the Recreation Trust, and the interaction between the Recreation Trust and what we've talked about is that the Recreation Trust, sorry, the council has a share in what we've talked about, which sits there to effectively ensure that there is good management of what we've talked about in respect of it being the sole tenant of the Recreation Trust. And the work that I've been doing and communicating with the officers about indicates that there is concerns there, which I have been helping to try and instigate progress and to ensure that they have a very stable footing for the future, because the club has had a lot of difficulties in the recent past, which has led to them nearly disappearing. And now that's not because of any shortage of interaction in the right way, or the representative is on the board there. And all that is also because of they have had meetings on the same night as full council meetings, for example, where previously it was the case that they didn't because the previous representative of that council was on that and supported in that. And it's also, there's just interesting intricacies in terms of how things will be conducted there, which I would prefer to carry on doing.
That's fine. You made the point, good, that we all remain on there. So we've got two candidates. We need one person, so we have to go to the vote. We've got two people standing.
There's absolutely, I don't think there's any reason at all that you can't have two people as representatives if they both wish to be. There's nothing in standing orders or anything else.
Depends how the governance is set up, isn't it?
We can talk to them.
We'll investigate that.
Okay.
We'll investigate that.
There's only one way.
In the meantime, we'll just take a vote. Councillor Scott.
Yeah, we'll possible email them and find out what happened to two council representatives.
It's the key thing to ask is because this has been quite grey to find out, is how, and Joe does some work on this for me, is what the responsibility is of council to take its place on the board of the club.
Well, I propose we defer it then, so that we can find out whether they can take two, and then it's brought back to council for a decision when you've got an answer.
Okay.
I'll second that.
All in favour?
Does that mean that I maintain doing that as has been the case?
There's a meeting before we have to make a clearer idea. Councillor Thornton London Association, do you want to carry on doing that?
What, allotment?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is it Burst want to join them? No. Parish liaison, that's me on there. Did anybody else want to do it? No, I'll carry on.
What is parish liaison?
Sorry. Midsummer Norton High Street Regeneration, Councillor Scott.
I'm happy to do it if no one else wants to do it.
Midsummer?
Norton High Street
I've
Regeneration.
been going on this whilst the mayor as well.
I was on the High Street Regeneration, and I'm quite happy to do it again. I think one thing that we benefit from is more regular reporting, because I'm aware there's quite a lot happened on that which hasn't come back to council for various time constraints and all the rest of it. But I also liaise with the people on the Radstock Regeneration team, and it's important that information is relayed to council because it's quite important, I think. So I did sit in it before.
Sorry, to be honest, I mean, I'm the chair of that, and actually we get them to come and report to us as a full council. So we get David Gossett to come and report to us. That's definitely what we're using. I mean, Cheryl's been just giving input from a council perspective.
Yeah, but I'm just aware there is quite a lot of information
People want to be on it.
there's quite a lot of information that's come out of that steering group has not been relayed to council.
No, take me off. Well, because I'm way overcommitted already. So if no one wants to do it, that's great.
Councillor Mackay, Scott.
Can I just ask what this is?
It's the Regeneration Action Plan.
So that's the group effectively
High Street Regeneration.
So that's linked to the master plan coming up, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Is there a limit to the number of people who can be on that?
I was going to say, Tim, actually, they have places for council and town trust as well, because it is just a steering group, so you can put other people on it too.
So
if you're willing to
from
go
a
to
town council perspective, first and foremost, I would like you consider to do that as well as accordingly.
I'll check.
You can't keep.
As chair, I'll check.
Yes, chair. How many? Okay, good.
And if you also check if the town council
So I will propose that one be deferred until we know whether or not there can be more than one person, and then that be brought back to council.
Continues as before until
Good idea.
you're clear. Right, where's the agenda? Right, thank
That's the
you.
next one.
So, this one is insurance confirmation arranged for insurance company insurance. This is to be, no, it's not insurance risk assessment of town insurance bills carried out, and premiums 2026-7 reviewed on the full council 16th of March. Full budget schedule is available to view on request. It's recommended that town council notes insurance cover in respect of all insured risk has been approved. The action bureau, so it didn't say it, but we are removing it.
Yes, because the council's insurance is due for renewal.
Right, so we're going to review.
It doesn't make sense.
So we've just approved it last meeting, so what's the point in trying to reapprove the decision we've already made? There's no point.
Right, okay, so it's not.
Is
Right.
standing orders require it?
Okay, so we've noted, that's it, yeah. Okay,
So
moving on.
I'll propose that then, those two
Okay.
items.
Shall we propose the two items? Some seconded, two recommendations, item 15, Mandy, seconded, all in favour? Moving on, that's everybody. Item 16, review of council subscriptions. Members note that the subscriptions were approved by full council as part of the budget process. To do with the order of this annual meeting. You've got that?
Yeah,
so
propose
council proposing, seconded, councillor Wells is seconded, all in favour? That's everybody. Item number 17 is a review of council complaint procedure. Recommended to refer this to Finance and Ops Committee meeting for review in the first instance. Proposing, Councillor Scott proposing, Councillor Wells is seconded, all in favour? Deferring this one, yes, everybody. Review of council's policy procedure, practice and inspection.
Just a quick question that I think what's happened previously is these procedures have been accepted by council in this meeting, and then throughout the year they'll be reviewed and then come back. So I know I don't know why we're having to defer them this time instead of just accepting them.
Because some of these don't actually exist
All right.
at all. So rather than writing a policy from scratch at this really busy time,
Makes perfect sense then, thank you.
Okay.
Can I just say, one of the things about putting together a corporate governance timetable, which will be brought to Finance Committee, is that it enables the council to be doing these types of things throughout the year, so that it does not all fall to this meeting. And the only reason it's falling to this meeting is because the standing order is currently saying it has to. Now, I don't think that what we want is a whole list of all the employment policies that have been passed by the personnel committee and whatever, and for it all to land in your inbox for this meeting. So that's the reason. So this will be staged.
Okay. We're on item 18, will we? So we just need to vote and defer.
Yeah,
Propose, chose deferred, Councillor Thornton seconded, all in favour of deferring that one, that's 18, thank you. Review of council policy for dealing with press and media, recommend deferral. Proposing, Councillor Hughes proposing, Councillor Wells seconded, all in favour, we'll defer that one. Review of the council's employment policies and practices, recommend to defer. Councillor Scott proposing, Councillor Gregory seconded, all in favour, that's everybody again. Review the expenditure incurred, S137 of the LGA 1972. Recommend that members note the report on the council's expenditure under section 137 of the Local Government for the fiscal year 25-26. The total expenditure of £1,792.50 was within the statutory limits.
So, Town Council notes it has currently been eligible to
Yeah.
you haven't got any expenditure, have you?
no, I didn't need to list the expenditure in the end. It was so minimal, well within our limits.
Okay. So, just we'll propose a recommendation.
I propose two recommendations.
Two recommendations. Councillor Scott is proposed and seconded.
That's it.
Councillor Thornton seconded. All in favour of 2 recommendations. That is everybody. So we're on to 22, the time and place of all the meetings. Recommend everyone to note the calendar meetings subject to any necessary amendments, approve the calendar. So we've got 2 amendments in May, planning and finance and ops on the 18th, currently the 18th of May, and moved to the 26th of May, Tuesday the 26th. Monday's a bank holiday. Reports are already by the 18th. So that's a change there, Tuesday the 26th.
That's my 50th birthday. I'd like that noted.
Did you say that's for FNO and family?
Yes, both those on the 18th, yeah. Apart from that, the only other change is full council held the first Monday of every month at 7 o'clock, unless it's a bank holiday, but the annual meeting at 6 o'clock, like it's been today.
And then the May one, then 27th, we confirmed. Do you want to say
Yes,
anything about that?
that one, the 17th, the full council on the 17th to be confirmed.
That's next year, that's
Yes.
2027.
Yeah.
Probably the best, it's away off, we leave that on.
Okay.
To do the elections as well, the
Yeah.
election dates are confirmed.
Good.
So we know, so we're going to vote, everyone happy with the calendar?
Yeah.
As amended, yeah.
As amended, yeah. All the proposals for the calendar, as amended. Councillor Gregory, seconded. Councillor Taylor, all in favour? Calendar.
Noting it, aren't we? Noting the calendar.
Yeah, approve the calendar.
Oh, right, I've just got a note. Okay. Happy to approve.
No, the calendar, approved. Schedule invoices for payments. Receive the list of outstanding credits of due for payment. The payments from delegate authority, note and encourage and approve payments.
I didn't print that out.
Well, I think it should be the same.
I printed out the overview, but I didn't print out the
Which
invoices.
is-
So, is that
That one, you went that little.
Is that the one
very
very
harsh, very harsh to read.
I was going to say, there's reams of it, wasn't there?
So, have anybody any questions? Thoughts, points? No. Proposer? Councillor Scott proposer. Seconder? Councillor Gregory. Seconded. All in favour? Everyone is in favour. 1 minute to go. Extension time. We're going to get through smoothly. Where are we now? We've got last. No, I've got all the case. No, we've got all these.
This is the one that's going to take
Yeah.
time.
So, I propose that we extend time for maybe half an hour, yeah, for 30 minutes to get through the business. And you're proposing, you've got seconded, Councillor Scott has seconded, all in favour of extending the time for 30 minutes if needed to get through everything. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, Lydia, 7, Sean, 8, yeah, 8 in favour, 1 no. Review of the Council's risk assessment policy and recommend this be deferred to the FNO committee. Proposal to defer to the FNO committee, Councillor Scott.
What number is that?
We're on 24. Seconded to defer to FNO. Defer it. Councillor Scott and Councillor Mackay's seconded. All in favour of deferring item 24. 25 bank arrangement. 2 signatures required for each bank transaction. It's important that councillors are available routinely to administer the council payments in a timely manner. Recommend that councillors approve 5 nominated bank signatures. These are all do it online. The online authorisation. We've got a list. We've got 5 from currently, haven't we? But it mostly falls down to Linda and myself to do it.
Yeah.
So
Who are the signatures currently? Because changing the bank line date has been nightmare.
I've got Councillor Plant, Councillor Robertson, Councillor Wells, Councillor Hughes, and Councillor Lucas.
It's generally council
Yes.
that do it. We do with small signatures that are available to sign off because if they weren't here.
everybody else interested? What you've got to do is
I'm happy to be a signatory with council tax.
You've got to keep an eye
But
on
we've got a
emails.
limit of 5. We've got 5, and and 5 is in the standing orders. We can't just keep adding people on.
Well, we haven't got councillor Lucas here.
Right, so I'll replace councillor Lucas, yes?
Yeah. Right, 2 signatures required for the councillor, so the recommended. So, councillor Taylor proposing seconding this, councillor Thornton, second, all in favour of those 5 signatories. That's carried. So just a change Lucas to Scott. 26. Blanket dispensation. Councillors acting on outside bodies. Recommend that councillors review. Review the report and resolve to grant a dispensation to council on outside bodies, including management committee representatives of town trust, recreation trust, and able to participate in discussion at council committee meetings without the need to apply for individual dispensations on each occasion. And councillor Kai.
Yeah, so I propose an amendment to that. It's a step in the right direction, makes sense, but this idea that I think the report talked about people, the dispensation not including the opportunity to vote is a little bit vague on things like financial matters. I don't see why that restriction is necessary, and so I don't think that should be there. And in any case, people could still request a dispensation for that. So I think it should be for non-pecuniary interests, it should be an absolute dispensation, not partial. So that's my proposed amendment.
Which you will need to declare. Which what we can't do is say you can have a blanket dispensation even if there's a pecuniary interest when you're on the trust or the community trust. The whole point is that you're saying for the rest of the time there's no need and you're getting a dispensation except when there's a pecuniary interest.
Well, for clarity, generally you never get a dispensation for pecuniary interests unless it's essential for quoracy, which is quite rare, and even then it's an emergency. So if we take pecuniary and put it to one side, and the handy definition of pecuniary, I think, which was in the agenda, is that the person could be financially affected by the resolution. Yeah, so it's not to do with financial control; it's the fact you're going to be paid or benefit some way. So take that to one side. Pecuniary interests, you're out. If it's a non-pecuniary interest, councillors elected by the people of Midst of Norton, most of us at least, should be allowed to vote and campaign and argue and contribute towards debates, and they shouldn't be prohibited from doing that just because they're on a management committee appointed by the council. That's up to the people making the appointment and the public to judge.
But that's what this is saying.
I'm confused. That's the point it says.
No, but it said in the report that the dispensation would not include the ability to vote on any matter that's financial.
Where there's a pecuniary interest?
No, it's not a pecuniary interest. It might be, for instance, the Town Trust Management Committee recommending council pay for something in the summer centre or a grant or something like that. That's not a pecuniary interest.
But when council decides a grant the town trust is?
No, it's not pecuniary because nobody's benefiting personally. So the definition again, that the individual could financially be affected by the resolution. So as a member of the Town Trust Management Committee, I think it's correct that I should be able to vote on financial matters that affect the trust, as other councillors can too. That's it. Maybe I misread it.
Personally, I would like the clerk to seek advice on that because I'm not sure that your interpretation is correct. I understand what you're trying to do, but when you have a financial interest, and that's what the Code of Conduct says, and the Register of Interests says, where you are in a position of management control, and where there is a kind of, it's very clear, I think it's Section 5 of the Code of Conduct.
No, I've tried to explain this several times, but we can go through it again another time, but it's very, very clear that being in a position of financial control is not a pecuniary interest, and it is another registrable interest. A pecuniary interest would be if you're receiving remuneration or compensation. I have done so much due diligence on that, including writing to the monitoring officer himself, who wrote back very clearly saying that that is not a pecuniary interest. If it's a pecuniary interest, you should take no part because that could be a criminal offence. But he said quite clearly, the management committee isn't the trust, and effectively we all have a declaration of interest regarding the trust because we have a registrable interest there, whether we declare it or not, and it doesn't matter whether or not you're on the management committee. So it does, if you look at the Code of Conduct, clearly it says quite specifically to do with other registrable interests and financial control, and that doesn't constitute a pecuniary interest.
I'd like to refer it to the clerk, propose this is referred to the clerk.
Okay.
I think it makes sense that if Councillor Scott develops a bit further, I'm happy to. But I think we were asking to change the councillor. So in section 5, the avoidance doubt where a matter under consideration of a financial arrangement between the council and either trust, i.e. not pecuniary, no self-interest. Okay, the council is a member of the management committee of the council may speak under this dispensation and vote.
Yes. That's it.
I don't see a problem with that.
Maybe I've read too much into that.
Yes.
Yes.
So you
I will double
check.
I will
and then
double
we-
check. Yeah, I'm
Okay.
see that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
That's great.
Do you feel that? Do you feel that?
Well, I mean, so there's a very clear amendment here that's just changing the words shall not to and vote, so they'll be able to vote. I don't see any reason why we shouldn't vote to accept that amendment subject to the clerk, because at least then, if the clerk says that the advice she's received says that's all right, then it's done, isn't it? And it doesn't need to come back to council again. So I'm happy
Okay,
with
so Cole is proposing the amendment, and somebody seconded Gore's amendment to change that. Yeah, so Councillor Taylor's seconded. All in favour of making the amendment?
subject to.
Subject to clarification.
Yeah.
So that's carried. Everybody's happy with that one.
No,
So if you find out we can't do it, eh?
yeah. So no.
Oh. One quick clarification, sorry, it does say that dispensation outside bodies, including those two management committees, will that be all outside bodies that we've just covered here?
That's the intention.
Yeah, that's intentional. But does that also include where you're an actual trustee of that outside body? That's still maybe requires a separate dispensation, or does it cover things like the community trust? Just for clarity.
It's going to depend upon how councillors represent on the community trust going forward and whether they sign up to be trustees.
Trustees are just representatives, okay. Okay, yeah. Fair enough, I'll leave that where it is then. Okay, thank you.
So we vote on the recommendation to adopt this. Councillor Mackay? Are you proposing, Councillor?
Yes.
Okay, Councillor Scott is seconded. All in favour of accepting? Okay, thank you very much. Item number 27, decisions taken by the town clerk from the delegated authority in consultation with chair of staff and chair of finance and ops to procure the service of temporary admin services to cover a period of staff annual leave, the sum total expenditure being within the clerk's delegated authority. In consultation with the mayor and the chair of staffing, a property and assets manager was appointed. Gas and electricity and water and internet contracts were initiated at the Orchard Hall. Recommended that council ratifies the decision of town clerk taken in consultation with the chair. Councillor McCarthy.
Propose that.
Proposing that. Seconding Councillor Scott. All in favour? Everybody's happy with that one. 27, 28. The 28 is the local plan 25 to 43 settlement boundary review. Council received a local plan from Baines. We'd like to review the settlement boundaries relevant to their areas. Submit comments. One comment was received. The planning committee were minded to support the settlement boundary review. In principle, made the following comments. Why does the new boundary go beyond the built form? Baines regulations say the plan should be excluded from the settlement boundary. Once the boundary is extended, it will likely be classed as residential land. The resident boundaries becoming settlement boundaries. So here's the response.
We're circulating the response received from Councillor Gregory and Councillor Wells, which you have all seen, but we printed off a copy just for your reference. If you wish to add anything to that, or amend it, you just take one first please.
Your proposal.
Councillor Kyle sent an email around, but hopefully you'll see them as well.
There's quite a few.
in relation to open land?
Well, you know what, I'd want to come into that. That principal area boundary review, which I think is the council's person that has, or the thing that has to ask for the principal area boundary review, council has previously resolved, never actually got around to doing it, but requesting the authority perform a principal area boundary review, which would make sense to do before the settlement boundary review. And it is something that comes back from residents continually, that new housing developments are built just on the outside of the boundary, and those people don't have correct democratic representation, all the rest of it. It's complicated, but that's what the principal area boundary review does. It makes little alterations to the boundary, little ones.
I think you're right to raise it again. It's not been progressed, considering it is talked about an awful lot. However, I don't necessarily think that's got to be done before this. I think it's both got to be done. Because they go hand in hand. This is something that has to go in now at the time for when it's adopted with the NPPF that comes in here. It'd be nice to know when that was done, and when it was, and if I can pick that up, it's all family.
Exactly, are we asking it to give consideration to the settlement plan? What specific actions are we asking banks to
It was in have we got access to the minutes for it from the planning committee?
So that's added into it,
It's
is it?
requested a response, but it's a draft document which has been prepared ahead of the NPPF before we adopted and put into law. So they made lots of assumptions effectively from Maine's perspective about how to make those amendments, but it's ahead of effectively when we adopted. So it's the council's response to this document, which is to change the boundary within the north.
I know what we're trying to do, but what we're saying here is we're basically providing a very woolly instruction to Baines, and I'd rather that we've provided some pretty specific instructions to Baines about the things that are especially concerning us. So we go back to the plan minutes.
While I think that's appropriate when there is a document that suggested that is timely, this is just it should be treated as it's a draft of a draft, effectively. So it's an oil, effectively, if that makes sense. So you can't have a draft document it's expectant of those things coming in, if you know what I mean. So the feedback is generalised to state there's potential clarification needed before it goes out the document that we consult on again. Because it's, yes.
Okay. Any other comments?
I think it's very likely they're going to let you have another stab at it when they get to regulation 19. I mean, by that stage, they will have formalised the local plan that's going to the inspector. So I suggest that if you have any issues with it, now is the time to make them clear.
Can you help everyone understand what the regulation is and the local plan provision timeline for that, sure?
Timeline for regulation 19, well, we don't know because it's just been delayed by, we were supposed to have a meeting on it in June, that's been pushed out to July. So I would have thought we were talking early 2027.
There's plenty of time for this to have feedback on it as a draft or something that's not that law, that could then be taken into account ahead of the full consultation with the public for the proposed quarter sites and the options that have been done. The next stage is effectively for proposal before forward. So we're a long way off any adoption.
Okay, but I'm not. Okay, so you want to submit that, submit it. I'm just saying that this is the opportunity to comment. If you have any problems with the boundary changes they're talking about, now's the time to influence that outcome and to have your comments. If you haven't got a problem with it, that's fine. But now's the time where you can actually influence the outcome. You won't influence the outcome at Regulation 19.
That's not the intention. The wording there, as it states, is concerns related to this exercise is separate and needs to part of the local plan because of the changes at the high level of the NPPF, which is going way above and beyond the local plan authority. The council is concerned about aspects of the proposals on settlement boundary, request that further consideration is given before the Regulation 19 version of the local plan is published, which is a long time away, so this fits in that timescale. It notes that there's a general assumption the methodology of the NPPF, which is not yet law, and that's what this document is based on. It states that the settlement boundary should be pulled tightly around the build form and generally exclude open spaces and edges. And there are elements of that proposed small boundary which may extend beyond that principle, and it needs better definition while it isn't yet defined.
I think that's the point I'm making, is that what we've provided is a general thing, and we said, well, we're concerned about this, but we've given a general overview instead of actually specifically identifying bits of the boundary that we're concerned about. So I don't know if anybody has got has identified any specific concerns of where that is. Because that will be helpful to put it in this document. That's all I'm saying. So I get what you're saying, but are there any specific examples that we want them to relook at?
It can't be specific because it's not in law that it's to inform what's supposed to be done, if that makes sense. So for us to engage in specifics would be to say, is to assume that Baines are doing it on the basis that something's been basically back. Does that make sense? So,
Councillor Taylor.
I wonder, Sean, if there are 6, you were saying that it's not clear. Can you say 6 things that you think need doing? No. Could somebody, like you say, Cheryl, is there like 4 things we can ask?
So if for
I
example, when you
understand
said,
what you're saying.
if it said in there, say that open land should be excluded, well, it should be. And if there's any area in there that is open land that isn't excluded, then now's the time to say, well, it should be excluded.
but the interesting thing, Sean, about this is the definition of open land is changing, it's not defined yet. So that's what I'm saying, it's changing. What we're actually seeing is the ballooning of the boundary of this law, which could allow development to happen in the future in places where you otherwise might not have seen it. And that comes hand in hand with the idea that there's a land supply that can already put forward as part of the local plan process, which is to say, you need 5,000 homes built in this wider Baines area over 30 years. The problem is it also opens up brownfield land for development with the extension of boundaries. You can say, like Northern School, for example, they could just turn around and say, we're going to relocate school somewhere else outside the school because it's more economical to do that, so we'll build homes on it, which is entirely possible for the schools partnership to do. You see the risk in balloons the boundaries, there's more to develop within it, so you have less control, because local plan allocates sites that are outside settlement boundaries.
Yeah.
The settlement and the ring fence of it means you can develop anything now, you just have change of use and go through the current process, which obviously is very important, Sean's got a lot of experience and knowledge of that. But this effectively says, can put whatever you want, like,
So what we've got here on the planning minutes that have been raised is that why does the new boundary go beyond the built form? So we can actually expressly say that, saying the boundary goes beyond built form, which we object to and wish it to be reconsidered. And hang on, it then says Baines regulations say that open land should be excluded from the settlement boundary, and we know that that has not been applied. And once the boundary is extended, our concerns are that it will be classed as residential land, with the resident boundaries becoming settlement boundaries, and we would want that revisited.
And that's the clash here, because you've got a new policy coming in, which is from the top, and you've got Baines put forward something as a draft of something that's based on something that's not even decided yet. So you can't necessarily go and say, we endorse this, and say that we want to say, this is that problem, that's that problem. It's got to be very general. Because you're saying, this isn't complete, it's a little bit...
Well, there seems to be a difference of opinion.
It's not
really general. It's
less opinion, because this is something that's not decided.
Why can't we put those 3 things in?
You're advocating something.
Can I just stop the discussion for a minute and let the man speak? Because some people want to say the same thing.
I was just going to say, I feel like it does need to be specific. To forgive Mr. Baines Council without the specifics, they're just going to say, like, oh, well, it is what it is, with they're going to take you to tick a box, say we've completed this for you, because we haven't given them the specifics to complete. We need to give them less smart and measurable.
Yeah, absolutely. So what is measurable about it is you've got before and after. If you look at those quite clearly, it's quite clear, but it's unclear whether or not the lines should be built, like put around those green spaces, because there's loads of them. There is a lot. And that's the doubt. So giving the key example just is unnecessary because it's really obvious.
Can we add in, where possible, protecting the green belt and not allowing...
There is a green belt around here, that's the problem. You can extend it to...
But protecting our open spaces then? Or protecting the open spaces so they're not...
Open spaces are gradually inhibited over time. So you can imagine, you extend the boundary, then next time you extend it again, it incorporates another bit of boundary inside that. There are other means to protect open spaces, which is via the process that we put forward. Effectively protected land at that point. So this settlement boundary thing is literally the development boundary that we can build up to. Previously, it went round and
Tim, we've got some contributions.
Okay, sorry.
You don't need to answer each individual. I think if the councillor makes that point, and then we can make a decision.
I'm going to quickly propose that this item is either deferred or you're allowed to do this, moved to later in the agenda, because it may go on for some time, and I would like to hear the town hall update before I leave, and we are down to 5 minutes now.
You can't be deferred, we need to get a response.
Yeah.
Well, it could be later in the agenda though. We could go to town
I
hall
was going to
update.
do a quick proposal to end this.
Okay.
I was going to say that the 3 comments in the planning committee minutes be incorporated as being more specific, leaving it to the clerk and deputy town clerk to word it as appropriate, to reflect the sentiments.
You can put those into that.
the funny thing is, behind the scenes, that's what's happened, is that those are the notes taken.
Could you, Tim,
This came from
we just end this and move on? We got time to insert it in.
So, can we want to take the comments from the planning minutes?
Yes,
No, there's 3
those
bullet
3
points.
things. Those 3
Yeah,
things.
That were on the agenda.
They just go in.
Yeah, no problem.
Specifically, back.
Okay, so
So
there's
it's the response that came from Councillor Well,
Yeah.
but incorporate the items from the planning minutes as well.
Yeah.
And to check that they're not already in there.
yes. Okay, so that's. Do we just vote on the whole thing? Can we vote on the whole thing, Cheryl? Do we have to vote on amendments?
I've proposed an amendment that we reflect those 3 things in the report.
So proposed second. All in favour of the amendment of adding the books, particular bullet points into that? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes. And no's?
Just abstention.
And abstentions too. Okay.
I
So
propose to
vote
put the amended document
second in the amended document. Second in the amended document. You're
as amended.
the document as amended. Second. Yes, you are. Right. Okay. All in favour of the document as amended? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 2 abstentions. No, okay. Yes. So 7, 2. Good. So thank you for that. Town hall update. You've got 5 minutes. 6 minutes. Town hall.
So unfortunately, there isn't much of an update since the last meeting. The main thing to tell you is that the glass lobby should have gone in last week, on the 5th of May, but that didn't happen. There's been a breakdown of communication, perhaps you might like to call it, between ANG and the structural glass company, whereby they haven't paid the final payment. The contract administrator is struggling to get a response from ANG at the moment. They're not responding. So, yeah, I'm sorry to have to bring that bad news. You know, we've been pushing today to get emails and some good news to bring you, but no, ANG were not a good appointment. And yeah, I don't know where we are at with the structural lobby. I hope to catch up with the project administrator, contract administrator tomorrow to find out more. But pushing all last week to get a response about why the loan payment hasn't been made. There's nothing. So in the meantime, they are working through the snagging list. Work hasn't stopped, so they are looking at the snagging. The company that was doing the plumbing, they're no longer on the project, and Mendip have now taken over their work. So we're still moving forward, but not with that good chunky bit that we hoped to be moving forward, which was such great news. But yeah, that's halted, so it has halted again. If we can get the glass lobby paid for back on track, Mendip are confident that it could potentially be done by the end of the month. But we will see.
Any more updates on the condition of the assembly room upstairs?
So the plumbing is completed upstairs. The walls need to dry out to allow the redecoration to continue because it's quite damp. We've taken off all of the wallpaper on the walls, and the plan is not to re-wallpaper. The plans to paint the walls. They are quite damp. So when the heating finally go on, it will allow the walls to dry out. They've tried dehumidifiers, heaters. It's still not really, it's not drying out.
Okay. I mean, the big concern about this is none of these issues were identified before the project started. And you know, originally the assembly room was meant to be shut for 3 months. So the concern I put forward is, has this damage been caused by the contractor?
So it's not damage.
Well, it is if you say that it's damp, for instance.
No, it's just the walls. It's just the walls. The heating hasn't been on in there for a long time now. It's an old building upstairs still. It's all the original walls, but there's been no heating on for a long time. So the walls need to dry out to allow the paint to adhere properly.
I mean, why did they put the heating off, for instance? Or why wasn't that? Why didn't that come up in the initial plan that because of the groundworks we'll be switching the heating off on the first floor, which means the walls will go damp?
The heating, when the boiler was potentially had to be replaced, it should have been a smooth transition, I imagine, from one boiler system to another boiler system. But time was taken to see if the current boiler could be saved, because it was a big expense to put in a new boiler, and it was deemed the boiler could be saved. So there was time taken on that, but that was only recently. I can't speak for what might have happened way back when. Yeah, I think when the redecoration commenced, there was no sign that there would be any problem with the heating.
You can see the kind of, what's the best word, I don't know, but the concern in the sense that the assembly room was used right up to before the building work started. It was in fine form, it was showing cinema and all the rest of it, and then 3 years later it sounds like lots of work needs to be done.
It's just redecoration.
Just redecoration.
It's just redecoration. That's all.
Okay.
It's just painting. You know, the council could choose not to redecorate.
Okay.
And
so maybe it's not as bad as I'm worrying about then. Okay, thanks. Because we have quite a lot of money in some sort of pot to redo this decoration, you know. £75,000, I think.
Okay. Any other points? I'll have your question now.
yeah.
So, if anybody has to go to the town, it's going to open. Yes, sometime. Yes, so the final item is the date of the next council meeting, so it's the 1st of June, is it?
Yes, that's true.
1st of June. Thank you very much for staying here all this time.